Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant, and this is Elite Dangerous. Continuing on from the journey to the Pristine Belt, I have uncovered a system on the galaxy map, and that system is called Cato. Now, it does have pristine reserves, and it has rings that contain asteroids with high metal content, so of course it seems the obvious place to go. So after having modded my ship with a decent mining laser, a decent refinery, and a good frameshift drive, I'm on my way to Cato. So in a minute I'll bring up the system map of Cato. It's got 3 planets with planetary rings and 1 or 2 asteroid belts. It is about 150 light years away, so it will take a while to get there, and of course that means a good number of jumps. And through the magic of editing, we arrive just like that. So first things first is to get a little bit of fuel here. I've still got a relatively fueled tank, but it doesn't do any harm to make sure it's filled to the max. There we go. And now let's just get away from the sun a little bit and have a look at the system map. So as I said, Cato's got 3 planets with planetary rings. 2 of them there are icy, and the 3rd is icy, but it's also got a metal rich band as well. The asteroid belt is rocky, so the best place to head is going to be to the Cato 12 or Cato 14 and head into the metal rich band. I think we'll go for Cato 12 as it's going to be that little bit closer. Now, being metal rich, it does of course mean you still might find a lot of minerals there, and my style highly prefer to find metal only. I'm not going to turn up the opportunity to look for pristine belts. Now, here we are just approaching Cato 12. As you can see, there's 2 bands there, 2 rings. We've got one on the outer one of asteroids, icy asteroids, or icy rocks, I gather. And this band right here, made up of metal content rocks. I'm going to slow down a bit. I don't want to go in too fast, otherwise it will inevitably do damage to the ship. And of course the problem, if potentially faced doing this, is heading headlong straight into an asteroid and wrecking your ship. But no, we're fine. We've actually come out quite high actually. Sometimes you drop off right inside the belt itself. Look at that view here. Quite a lovely sight, isn't it? As far as you can see, and all hours. So let's go down there and see what sort of content we can find in pristine reserve asteroids. Now, the pristine condition should mean that these are relatively untouched, if not totally untouched, by miners of any type, whether that be NPCs or pirates. Now, the sparks there do show these are metal asteroids and not rocky ones. Uranite and indite. So that's not such a good start there. We'll move on to another rock. Yeah, as I was saying, the pristine condition tells us that there should be a high percentage ratio of any particular ore or mineral in any of these rocks, and that they're relatively untouched by NPC miners or player miners. The idea is that as the areas get depleted from being mined a lot, they should reduce from pristine condition down to major reserve condition, and then to common, eventually to depleted. But I don't believe that function has fully been implemented into the game just yet. Now look at that, 22% silver. That's not a bad find, all in all. Missed it. So assuming the asteroid can keep chucking out rocks like that, of that sort of percentage, I'd only need 4 chunks to make 1 ton, which would equal around 5,000 credits worth of metal. Let's just get out a few more first, and then I'll have a check of what we've got. So it's 3, 4, maybe 5 lots. It looks like another 22%. That's if I haven't just targeted the same one I already had targeted initially. Right, that's cool. So in the refinery to the side, I've got to allocate, and of course I'm going to want to keep the silver. Now I'm going to jump in here with a bit of an interlude. I spent quite a lot of time here in this particular belt, and whilst the initial findings were quite good, as you can see here with the silver, all the rest was pretty poor fare. There was a lot of indite, a lot of gallite, and all the fairly lower spec minerals. And I believe that's because I chose high metal content asteroids. What we should really be looking for is metallic asteroids. They seem to have a much higher ratio of ore to minerals. And rather than having you guys sit here for another hour or so watching me search for low spec minerals, I'll jump straight to the part where I decide to leave this area and have a look for another system. So it seems pretty obvious we're not going to find anything much there at all. And why not have a look for another system? Now, finding belts in pristine reserve condition is not that easy, especially when we haven't got the information for many of the systems here. But we can have a look at the ones we have got information on. Nakuma. So the major reserves: metal rich, icy, and metal rich again. So not really ideal, because that's pretty much what we've just come from, with those being major reserve rather than pristine. But there is another number of interesting looking systems around that area. Now I say they're interesting because they're named rather than just allocated a number series. So I think heading out there might be worthwhile, because we've got a number of systems around there. Of course, Nakuma looked like quite a decent system from the distance, but it didn't have precisely what we were looking for. But what it does have is a station with all the facilities we could want, along with a good chunk of universal cartographics. So let's buy up all these system data here, which will give us maps of the local systems around us, and then we can take a closer look at those systems and hopefully find what we're looking for. So that's Nakuma. Let's back up and have a look at one of the other ones I've brought. The first one I brought was 68 Draconis, so let's have a look at that. Oh, that's an interesting looking configuration for the planets. What do we got? Pristine reserves and metallic. Look at that, first hit. Pristine, metal rich, pristine, metallic again. So perfect, 2 hits in that system, as well as having a station nearby, which means we'll have a place to sell our ore at. So I'm hoping that is indeed the perfect combination. It's asteroids in pristine condition of the metallic type, which means prospecting there should be rather profitable. Look at all the systems on the list there. The stars around this area seem fairly tightly clustered together, giving us a rather long list of potential systems to choose. But we want to go to 68 Draconis, so let's get on the way I'm hoping that the stations in 68 Draconis have a outfitting screen available with a good stock of parts. I really want to upgrade the Cobra, and I'll be keeping an eye out for the intermediate discovery scanner so that I can once again head back out and start exploring the systems again. Looking through the current lozenge of systems available to us in beta 3.06, there's a whole ton of planets that have absolutely no system information available on them whatsoever. So who knows what we may find out there. The planet variety has certainly stepped up with a somewhat rotten looking grapefruit there. Only joking. So off to 68 Draconis it is then. I also have no way of knowing if the system map for 68 Draconis that I currently have is fully complete.
Drive charging.
So that's going to be another use for the intermediate discovery scanner. I would try a basic one, and if they're available I may well buy one, but I do think, as I've said before, they have a somewhat limited range and make exploring pretty difficult really, whereas the intermediate discovery scanner with its superior range makes exploring a lot more interesting and that bit easier. I will eventually try the advanced discovery scanner as well, but the price is quite high, so it's going to take a while to get up there for that. And to be honest, you can get a pretty good ship for the price of an advanced discovery scanner. A little bit more fuel scooping then. Just keep topping the fuel tank up. And let's have a look at that system map again. So 3 suns, 2 of them at least that we know of with planets, and 1 without. And we want to go to 68 Draconis C2. And there's 2 rings there, and we want the metallic ring. So that's quite a distance, isn't it? Guess we're in for the long haul for a few minutes. So this is 68 Draconis C2. It's a lovely looking gas giant, one of the best I've seen, although that's just a personal preference. And you can see the 2 ring types here. We're going to jump into the inner ring, which is metallic. I'm probably going a bit too fast here, so I'm going to take a bit of damage here, 2% damage, no real problem. Now fingers crossed that we find some good ore here. It's been a rather long trip to get here after the failure over at Cato. You may have noticed earlier the rather large multi-cannon that I've got on the left there, and that's a turreted weapon, which means it will aim pretty much any direction above and almost behind my ship. Quite an expensive piece of kit. I haven't had a chance to try it out yet, but I'll have a look at that with you guys a little bit later. Let's see what we've got here. Silver. Only 5%. Well, I'm not going to collect that just yet, because it's too many pieces per ton, and I fully believe that a Pristine Reserve metallic belt should have much better ore than that. So let's see what this asteroid has. Palladium, there we go. Palladium 43%, jackpot. And that is exactly what I was hoping to find. Perfect. You know, that's about 13,000 credits just for 2 chunks of ore. And I'd say each asteroid can chuck out anywhere up to 10 chunks of ore, so that's a good sum of money right there. So the question is, how many more of the asteroids in this belt contain similar sort of resources? But first things first is to mine the rest of this asteroid here. Ouch. I think I knocked something there. just pick this trunk up. Okay. Now the only problem is that I sometimes lose track of the asteroid I'm mining when I go on my little collecting spree here. I turn, especially when those asteroids are tightly packed, I turn around and find myself mining the wrong asteroid. But I can see on my radar here where it is. It's just off to the right there. So let's allocate the resources I've collected, get this last piece and mine a little bit more. What have we got? We can vent that. We don't really want that. Pristinine's not worth that amount of money really, especially when you can fill up your cargo hold on platinum. Platinum would be even better, obviously. But what we found here is very good indeed. Now we're just going to have to keep venting the Pristine there. The method I currently use of mining, I chip off about 3 chunks and then go collect them, then head back to the asteroid and chip off another 3 chunks. Now the reason I do that is that the time to live on these particular bits of chunks can be a bit short. So this belt is teeming with high quality ore at high percentage ratios, so if you guys want to head out this way, I'd hurry up and do so. It's certainly worth the journey if you're a miner, or if you've got any intention of finding money. Here you can see I'm getting gold in the 26% ratio range. And that's after already finding a whole bunch of platinum and silver, and all the other lovely stuff. So I'm basically just going to fill my cargo hold up on all the ore that's extremely valuable. I've been here for around about 20 minutes or so, and that seems to be all it takes to fill up your cargo hold with extremely valuable cargo. So it's about time to head back to the station and sell my cargo and see how much I've earned. Now there is 2 stations in this system. One is just an outpost and it doesn't have a commodity market. The one you want is this station here, which is Gasper, and it does indeed have a commodity market, allowing us to sell our precious cargo. And that's great because it allows us to travel to and fro from that ring system with relative ease, meaning we should be able to earn quite a good amount of profit. Oh, I'm wondering whether to be a bit daring here and go for a rapid dock. Yeah, let's swing up and travel in there quite fast.
Scan detected.
It's a nice little change there, isn't it, that they've removed the hostile scan detected phrase. And in we go. Slow down just a tad. Right. Landing pad 13. So after that rather rapid entry, 13 is right by the doorway as usual. But our lateral and vertical thrusters allow me to position quite easily. Right, we're nearly in there. I do dislike these landing pads that are right by the entrance. Gently does it, and we're in. So how much money we get here is anyone's guess, but I'm estimating at it being over 100,000, which isn't too bad for around about 20 minutes or so mining. So we got 1 ton of gold, a whole bunch of palladium there. Look at that. And should be a little bit more, yeah. Look at that silver. So, as you guys and girls can see, heading out to a pristine reserve belt that has metallic content asteroids is very worthwhile indeed. So this is 68 Draconis. Head out here and have a look. The next step is to do a little bit more mining and then buy the intermediate discovery scanner, which is around about 550,000 credits. I'll also want to upgrade my jump drive to get around 18 light years. And of course then I'll be on my way to exploring the galaxy. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys and girls next time. This has been Obsidian Ant, signing out.